dark.
And we are live.
Hi, live.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in tonight. We're going to have a bit of a learning conversation. First, I want to introduce my godchild, who is Janine on my screen. She is second one down on the right. And now I would like to tell all of our viewers what inspired tonight's broadcast. I was sitting here as, I'll say, a white person watching what's been going on for the last 3 or 4 days, feeling emotion, pain that I couldn't describe, but was afraid to open my mouth because I didn't know what to say. And I didn't know what I don't know, and I never, ever have thought of myself as anybody who would be offensive to anyone. So I sat there for 2 days watching all of this, feeling like I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do. And then I want to tell you what happened. I got a text and it said this. This is important to me, and I hope that you see it and take it in. You have a platform and a position where you can change minds. I hope that you'll soon consider having a talk with my mom, myself, or anyone of color who you choose, who is experiencing life right now. People have to understand the deep-rooted issues here to start to make change. There is too much pushback over a movement that is about people asking not to be killed because of their skin color. And as loving as the dance community is, the pushback is all too much sometimes. From people you'd find loving, I would like to see you move forward. She says, I'd like to put faces on this as well, so people, dance people, or people that love dance and provide dance education could share their experiences. So Janine, you gave me what I needed to figure out what to say. And tonight I'm here to learn everything that you want me to learn. I'm anxious to share with everybody the things that we don't understand because we don't live in your skin. So I want to welcome our guests here tonight. I have LaShonda, Erica, Janine, who you all have met, and Gregory, who's my new friend here. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having.
I'd like to first ask you this. Tell everybody, I'll start with you, LaShonda, a little bit about yourself, but also tell me how this last few days have made you feel.
Well, I'm LaShonda Cheney. I'm from New Jersey. I have a dance school here, La Cheney's Dance and Music Academy. These last few days have been surreal, very emotional, just in amazement of everything that is going on right now. I find myself sitting here in tears, trying to figure out what is going to happen next. How long do we have to experience this? How long do we have to go through this? So, it's very emotional. I just found myself just more so in prayer, trying to get through this, even as I'm, reading the word and seeing that a lot of this stuff is written right in the word that it was going to come to pass, this was going to happen. But my prayer is that we can get through this. We can get through this, but we need to get through this in love. you know.
Okay.
So it's very emotional.
Erica, tell us a little bit about yourself, and also I'd like to know what the last few days, how you've been feeling.
Hello, I am Erica Hogan and I own New Attitude Performing Arts Center. We are located in South Carolina and in North Carolina. These last few days have been exhausting, is the word that I would come up with. It's every emotion that comes through. It's 1 minute you're sad, then you're angry, then you're frustrated, then you just want to bring peace, but then you want to fight, then you're crying again. And then you want to talk to people about it, but then you want to recluse and kind of stay in and you don't know what to do because there's so little you can do, but then there's so much you can't do at the same time. So it's just exhausting. And then there's a little bit of hope that comes through for me because there's so many people that want to have a conversation, and the excitement that built up over this, and I say excitement meaning the amount of people that want to be here and listen to this. I was on a call today with people in the UK that wanted to hear these stories, that wanted to help. And so I have to, for myself, I have to keep some type of hope alive that something will change. So it's exhausting and it's up and down roller coaster as well.
People want to learn right now.
Right.
That's a good thing. Janine, how you feeling? Tell everybody a little about yourself.
Oh, well, I teach for Kaleidoscope of Dance and Gymnastics in Wareham. I started off this weekend with my heart was very heavy. That's what I can say. Everything felt heavy. And I can say that as I continued to teach dance classes and see these little faces, it got actually heavy. I'm watching these little children go about their day. They're telling me about their swinging. And I said, I wish that I could, for 5 minutes, forget all of this. But it's just always just kind of sitting there pushing. And I feel like my darkest moment was when I sent that text to you, because I was so desperate. I was like, I felt I'm not in a position where I can go to protests. I have a 7-year-old that is constantly with me. I cannot go out without bringing her. And honestly, I'm afraid to bring her because I'm seeing little 7-year-olds getting in the face. I cannot be there. I cannot do it. And I felt helpless. I felt hopeless. And then I sent that text message. So like when he was reading it, I was getting emotional. But what I can say is once that happened and I had a conversation with him and I reached out to Gregory and I started to really say my opinion to people. And I had a conversation with my studio owner, which was beautiful. Like the outpouring of love, like all the people in my life showed me who they were. They showed me that they're beautiful. They showed me that they're here and that they want to listen and that they're willing to make a change. So it like all led up to this moment. And today my heart started to get a little lighter because of all of the support from all of these people. And just even hearing my studio owner, like I was like, I'd like to not teach my classes today. She was not going to be closed on Tuesday. I said, I would like to not. And she supported me, but she said, I don't really want to post it on the page. And that's a normal time where I say, I respect you and would shut up. But then I said, you know what? I said, I appreciate that. I respect it, but I disagree. I don't think that this is political. I think that this is a human rights issue and you stand for equality and you have me in your studio and I feel like they should know. And since then she has came around and the studio knows and they see it and they've all reacted with open arms and love. So it has come around and I feel much lighter about things, but the heaviness is still there. So that's where I'm at.
I respect it. Gregory, tell us a little bit about yourself. And I know you have some things to say, my friend, about the last.
Hello, everyone. And it's really nice meeting you guys on this platform. And thank you, Ree, for affording us this platform for us to dialogue and engage. But my name is Gregory King, and I am an assistant professor of dance at Kent State University. I've been here for 4 years. I actually go up for tenure in the fall. So, there's that. I'm actually Jamaican. I'm from Jamaica. And even though I've been living in the States for 28 years, and I'm a dancer by trade now, a dance educator. And I'm really glad to be having this conversation. The past couple of days, weeks actually, it's been traumatizing. It's been eye-opening. It's been anxiety-filled. But for a lot of Black people, and I just want to ensure and encourage that when we're talking about Black people, we say Black people and not people of color. Black people. For Black people, those aren't new experiences. Those aren't new feelings. But what I'm trying to do is find ways to be gentle with myself and to be gentle with those around me. It's not easy, especially when these things are happening and you realize that you teach in predominantly white spaces. And while I do allow my pedagogy to be affected by anti-racism rhetoric and structure, sometimes I do have to infiltrate. And so I welcome this opportunity to not teach white people. It's not my job to teach white people about racism, but to engage with other Black educators and share in some of the concerns we have surrounding how do we encourage people to do the work. And how do we stay sane while we're not only educating, but go home to our families and live in love?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Live in love. That is how I'd love it to be. We'll get there one day. All right. I have, this is where I want to jump off. How often do you think about your racial and ethnic identity when it comes to your business and teaching?
Every day.
Yes.
Every day. Even when you called and asked if I would do this call, I hesitated for a second because I was so scared that if I got on this call, I might say something that could be offensive to somebody at my studio, which would then hurt my business. And I think about it in the music selections that I choose. Sometimes I try so hard to make sure that we're not labeled as the Black teacher or the Black studio that we will dance to a Celine Dion song, even though I was really passionate about that Whitney Houston song that day. So I think about it every day with every decision that I make every day.
LaShonda?
Yeah, well, we want everyone to be included, right? So we don't open up our business to say it's just for Black people. We don't do that, right? So we want to be able to serve everyone. But with that, there's extra things that we always have to do, right? The way Erica said, we're being conscious of the music that we're playing. We are being conscious of how we have our studio set up, okay? From the pictures on the wall to it's everything. And I'm going to say that, and I know you're going to ask me that question.
No, I love this.
Yeah.
Keep on going, my friend.
You're going to ask me that question about the pictures on the wall. So like I told you, I've always wanted my school to be very diverse. And me and my staff, we couldn't understand why whites were not coming into my doors, okay? And it wasn't that we were just advertising that I am a Black school, right? Now I've had families that come here, they may call and they say, is this a Black-owned business? And I would say yes. And so I do have people that will come and support because I'm a Black-owned business, other Blacks, right? But we don't advertise that this is a Black business because we want to be able to serve everyone, right? We want to be able to serve everyone. And I and I had someone that came in, and I didn't really have a lot of white students. I may have had one, okay? But I had someone come in, and she loved the school. She loved my spirit, everything. We walked through the school, and she stopped and she said, "I love it here. I would love for my son to attend." And she looked at a picture on the wall, and it was a picture of, you know, every year when the kids take pictures, we post their pictures of the recital. So it was all the class pictures on one board. And she turned, and when she looked at it, I almost thought in my head, okay, what's about to happen? And then she said to me, she said, "Is it going to be okay that my child attends here?" And when she said that, I said, why would you say something like that? I said, "Everyone is welcome to be here." She said, "Well, I only see like children of color." And it was almost like it hurt my heart, you know, for her to think that she wasn't allowed to come. She wasn't allowed to come there because there were only pictures of Black students. And I said to her, nearly in tears, I said, "Everyone is welcome here." And I said, "I've been trying to figure out myself, you know, why I don't have people that look like you coming in my doors." I said, "The reason why you see this picture with all Black kids is this is all that will come through my doors. Now, I've had some that will come here for a birthday party, and it would be white students, but they will not, you know, I'm not going to give you my business." And Ray, even before, I'm gonna go one step further, because I had a second location in the neighborhood where I live at, which is predominantly white. Okay. And they would drive past my door to go 5 miles down the road. Okay. So that hurts. That hurts. So I'm going to bed at night trying to figure out what can I do so that my business will be able to cater to everyone. And that's not me stepping back saying I don't want to just cater to people of color. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that either. I want to be able to just walk in love, which means everybody is welcome here. And I would always say, I pray, I don't care if they're Black, yellow, green, purple, blue. Okay. Everyone should be able to come in here, especially since we are for the arts. The arts is not supposed to have a color on it, right? I thought that that music, that universal language, we're all supposed to be able to dance to this one beat. But that's not happening. That's not happening. So that one parent that came in and spoke about that picture, and she said to me, she said, "You know what? I'm gonna help you make the change." And that one lady went out and went on her platform and talked about my school. And next thing you know, they were coming in. But why did it take? It had to take another, right?
You and I have had this conversation.
Yes.
I learned a lot from you on this topic. I'm going to continue on though. Janine, do you feel your identity all the time when you're teaching?
Oh, it is so like Erica said, immediately every single day. Most of the children I've taught, when I grew up, when I went to school, I was one of 3 Black kids in my elementary school class. When I was in high school, it was the same. Like I went to a big high school, and there were Black kids there, but the classes I was in, I was one of few. And my mother's dance studio, even though she was Black, it was all white people. I was one of like two Black people in the class. It's because of her location and where she opened up, really. There just aren't many Black people that live in the area that she opened up. But that's just was my experience. But I just growing up, I found that racism is quiet here in Massachusetts. It's not like people will have negative feelings or feel some type of way about how I look, how I talk, how I dress, how my hair is, but they won't say it. Like if I was a server, they'll say it in a tip. as a dance teacher, they'll say it by moving their kid out of my dance class.
Mhm.
It's so I every day
Wait,
I
wait,
wonder.
wait. I have to back up. Did you say that people have requested to leave your class?
No, but I'm gonna back up from there because
Okay.
no, what I'm gonna say is every time a kid drops, that's what goes through my head.
Oh,
I'm trying to
okay.
answer your question.
Okay.
You-
Okay.
When you have this skin color in where I live in Massachusetts, people don't broadcast it to you that they don't say it. They don't say it. You don't know. You don't know unless somebody white heard it and they tell you. You don't know. And it runs through my head every day. I'm like, did that kid drop because of my skin color? Can I play this music? Will my boss come in and tell me, oh, that music choice was interesting? If I dress this way, how will people feel about how I look? And it runs through my mind constantly. And it's something that I guess until you ask that question, it's just the way I live. It's how I live my life. So until you ask that question, I didn't realize that maybe other people don't. This isn't something that I was like, because it's normal. It's so normal that as I'm saying it, I'm like, wow, like this is something that I live with that other people don't. So that's my experience.
Well, to be honest, Janine, Gregory is the one who helped me out with this question. He gets the credit for it.
Oh, stop it.
But Gregory, I'd love for you to answer this question.
Yeah, and that question is layered and it's complex in its makeup, because the dominant culture consists of straight white male, straight white able-bodied male. Okay, when I enter a space, my blackness is the first thing I think about. When I navigate the world, the way I navigate the world is as a Black person. And I say person because my blackness is what people see, right? When I enter a department store, I am followed because of my blackness. I am seen as possible guilty for something. I find myself buying something even though I don't want it because I want to show that I can afford it. When I lived in New York and a cab driver I was trying to go home, they saw my blackness, so they would think, oh, he lives in a place that I didn't want to go. So I navigate the world as a Black person, and that's become central to my identity. Now, my gender presentation is male, but because male is dominant to female in terms of the hierarchy of cultural setups, I don't think about my maleness. And because of that, that is a privilege I have. And now that I teach mostly women, I always acknowledge my privilege in those spaces. So when I walk into a studio and I see my female dancers, I acknowledge that and I decenter my maleness. My blackness is, of course, present, but in that space, my maleness takes precedence because as men, we take up a lot of space in this world. And so what I try to do is I step back and create space for my female dancers. So no, I do navigate the world as a Black person, and it comes into, and I want to go back to what LaShonda was saying, or maybe it was Janine. I think it was Janine. There are these little isms that happens in interactions with white people. And it's the coded language. It's the microaggression that happens. And we work so, it's very obvious, but we work so hard to sift through it, right? They're never gonna say, oh, when you're being hired and they say things like, oh, the person is not a good fit. Not a good fit for whom? Oh, interesting choice. Why is it interesting? And dance can be very, very exclusive. Dance can be very separatist if you really think about it, because we're in this space and you have this mirror reminding us of all our inadequacies, okay? And if we're supposed to be honest with ourselves, we're all looking at dance through this Eurocentric lens. You have to be skinny, you have to, not necessarily have a butt, and there's certain things that as girls of color, Black girls will have that white girls won't have. And so there's this constant feeling of not feeling like they're enough, not feeling like they're enough. And dance somehow starts to filter its way into dividing groups and crowds. I work really hard to create equitable spaces for my dancers. And so I do acknowledge my male privilege in the space, but my Blackness is the lens through which I teach.
Wow. All of you. Wow. I want to ask you a question because I want to ask it for all of the viewers like me. And then I have some other questions here. Can you describe what is white privilege as you see it? Please. I know you would think that other people would get this, but I want our listeners to hear it from your perspective. Gregory, I'm starting with you.
Sure. So it's
you might be all we need, I have a feeling. But go ahead.
And I will say, just the fact that, oh God.
I know. I
Okay,
get
no,
that even the question.
So there are times when, and I'm going to preface this before I start answering. I'm no longer in the frame of mind where I need to be educating white people on anything, on racism, on racial violence, on oppression. That's not my job. That's no longer my job. However, I really do welcome this opportunity for discourse. White privilege is the ability to just exist without question. White privilege is the norm by which everything is measured. White privilege is a person entering a space as a white person and they don't have to think about their color. Because everything, that their whiteness is the central factor by which everything around them is measured. And they can just exist. And what we do and it's really sad that is a thing, but I have to always remind, when we're being evaluated as teachers, when I say my Blackness is something that's paramount to my teaching, my pedagogical method, when I enter a room, I'm not just a professor, I'm a Black professor. Because in their minds, I am the other in their space. I wanted to start this conversation by saying that as Americans, we exist on stolen land, and that we are here, we exist because of the forced labor of enslaved Africans. And that is something that is a part of the makeup of this country, which allows white people to exist with that privilege. And we have to work to dismantle that, to dismantle and dissect white supremacy and all its phalanges, because what it does, it causes people like Trump to get into the White House. And sorry, not sorry.
No, it's so.
So I'm just gonna say that and be done with it, because anyway, we can talk about that later. But I just spoke to you about what I.
No, and I so much appreciate the answer. Do any of you, LaShonda, Erica, Janine, have something to add on the topic of white privilege?
I'll jump off of what Gregory said, especially when he went back to, we are on stolen land. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And this country was built off of the backs of Black slaves. It just really was. And with that, in everything that occurred from then, I would describe it as there's this tree. Our culture in our country is a tree. And I actually heard this this reference in a protest, and it so hit home. There's a tree growing, and those were the roots. So those were the roots: slavery, the rape of this land.
Sorry, not sorry.
Pushing the Native Americans off the land, and just. Those are the roots of this country. So the leaves, the trunk, the trees, the branches are all gonna be part of that, everything. Your schools, your police departments, your government, all of it is going to grow, and it's going to be from that. So every time we protest and we do this, we chop it down.
Yeah.
Chop it down. So it's chopped down, the tree falls, but guess what? Those roots are still there. Those roots are still there. They have not gone away. So when that tree starts to sprout back up and come back up and come back to life, it's going to be the same issues, the same things. And with that, like, as people live, the white privilege is not seeing that, not having to see that, not having to recognizing it, being able to look away and be unaffected.
Yes.
And
Yes.
being able to live your life without worry. I worry every day of my life when I leave my house and get into my car. That's because of personal experience. I have personal experience of things that have happened to me that make me afraid to leave my house, get in my car, and drive to work.
Mm-hmm.
Leave my car, leave my house, get in my car with my child, and go anywhere. If the first few years of my child's life, I was scared to death to go outside, to go out by myself with my child, because my child is very light skinned and I am dark skinned. I was afraid, and these are things that that people in this country have the privilege of not having to worry about. And when with what happened with George Floyd, people were able to watch that, feel sick, get traumatized and it's over, they get to turn it off.
Exactly.
And ignore it and not feel it again. And say too bad. And that's the difference. That's the privilege. And that's what I would have to say about that.
I just want to also it's important for me to say this, listening to him being in a conversation with Black women, that, being a Black man, sure, but being a Black woman sometimes, and I really want to make sure that I'm not taking up space, as I sometimes do. But I just want to thank you for the work that you do to educate the next generation of dancers, because your voices and your presence, it's madly necessary. I do want to say a little bit about the old George Floyd / Amy Cooper. Miss Tuna. I call her Miss Tuna, by the way. So the George Floyd thing was angering and maddening, and it cuts to the core. Amy Cooper felt personal to me because I know a lot of Amy Coopers. Amy Cooper felt personal to me because I teach Amy Coopers, right? They're in my classes. Those are the ones who wield their white power, who will call the dean and call the principal, because they know that principal will take their words or yours. They're the ones who, they have an entire semester to come to your office for office hours to deal with your whatever concerns they have, but they wait until the end of the semester to write something scathing on your evaluation, knowing that you can't fix anything now, even though they had opportunities to do it. Those are the Amy Coopers, because they're using their whiteness, their white femaleness, they're weaponizing their whiteness because it is a punitive thing. And it's something that white women need to check. And as white mothers, your children see your behaviors. I remember I was teaching at a ballet school a couple of years ago, and there was a young lady, mind you, I don't teach babies. I don't teach anybody under 10. I can't.
I get it.
I can't do it. And I'm very clear about that. I'm not doing it. 16 and up. And that's sketchy too. And they gave me the 10-year-old, and I was like, oh, shoot. It's okay. I prayed, I drank, and it worked out. But I was teaching the class, and everything is fine for the first couple of weeks. There was one young lady, she wasn't very good. And she was in the back, and I wouldn't say that I ignored her, that I did not ignore her. I gave her corrections when needed, but she wasn't very participatory. She wasn't very present. One day I came in, and the principal of the ballet school called me to her office, and she said, Mr. King, well, I just want to say that I'm not accusing you. And I'm like, oh shit. what happened now? Apparently, this little girl came in that day with a brace, right? A brace. I haven't seen this child yet. And the principal said, this little girl, I'm not gonna say her name, came in this morning and she had a brace on. Her arm was in a sling. And we asked her what happened, and she said, Mr. King yanked me. Mr. King yanked me. I had never touched this child. And the principal finally told me that she had done it before, like accused the teacher. And I said, and she's still in your school? Because what dawned on me, because the truth is, she could say that about any other white teacher. But as a Black teacher, the repercussions are very different.
Exactly.
And what I questioned was, what would have happened if this little girl, if this little rugrat had gone home and told her parents that I touched her inappropriately? It's not that you don't get to just smile and walk away. You have to hold your children accountable, and children live what they learn. She saw someone manipulate a situation and she decided that she was going to be a manipulator, and she was 10. She's a little Amy Cooper.
Yeah, oh man, I wouldn't call that like white privilege. That's like weaponizing.
Weaponizing, sure.
Yeah, that's like using it as a weapon. I feel like they're two different things in my head, but
I wanna pop in on the privilege just as an educator, because it's to bring a different side to it, because I don't want to be taken negatively, because then the people that we're trying to reach will tune out. Privilege is not necessarily a bad thing. We've all got privileges, right? I have a privilege that when I go to see a speaker at a workshop, I don't have to worry about, is there somebody there that's doing sign language, because I can hear. That's a privilege that I have.
Sure.
I don't have to worry about, is there a wheelchair ramp when I go to the mall, because I have the privilege of, I've got my legs. So don't automatically assume that it's a bad thing. Just acknowledge it and understand where you sit in the world with it. And again, that's just because I don't want it to seem like an attacking thing. I don't want the message to get lost in translation. That was just the educator side of me.
Yeah, and I want to also, I'm never going to backtrack. My experiences, they dictate how I navigate the world. And I think a lot of times we don't want to have the necessary conversation. They're not even hard, the necessary conversations about the people that end up coming into my university space, right? They come from these spaces where conversations aren't had, and then they get to evaluate me, they get to interact with me, and I have amazing students that I still chat with and interact with, and I go to weddings and baby showers and all that jazz, because I teach from a place of inclusion and equity. They're very important to me. But I want everyone to be a part of the conversation around what role you take up in this world and what you are going to do to create more equity for others.
Right. And I want to just piggyback off of you, Janine, what you said, that, like pretty much like you're just walking in fear, like you're so afraid. I don't think that we have to walk in fear at all. We don't, I know I'm not at a point where I'm afraid to go outside to, thinking that something bad is going to happen to me. So I just think that that's something, even in your mindset, not to walk in fear, to be afraid to go out with your child, because you can't live your life like that. And, and that's for everyone. That's for everyone. We can't walk in fear, thinking that we're always going to be attacked, as well.
I agree. And like I said, that is because of my personal experiences of
Sure.
have happened to me. And I recognize that. I have had things happen to me that are terrifying. Mm-hmm. So with that, I do hold this in me. So, and I recognize that, and I am working on it. Believe me, I am much better. But thank you though. Thank you for saying that, because I think that was really important. Thank you.
I'll follow up on that. Where it hurts me to know that you feel that way walking out your door.
Right.
Like right away, I wanted to say to you, why?
Right. I wanted to
Can
say,
I ask you why real fast if it isn't something you've already said, please?
Okay, I can tell you there have been many instances where I have been yelled at, screamed at, where I have seen Black people with white children where they're questioned and it's uncomfortable, and those are the roots of it. But I have been personally attacked and assaulted. There was a gun put to my head. It was racially motivated. The N-word was used, and it is something that happened to me.
okay.
So I want everyone to recognize that this is how I view the
I
world.
got it.
This is my view. So it's not everybody. Not everybody views the world like this, and not everybody has been attacked. Not everybody has, but that's why this really does hit hard for me in particular as a human being. So
I want to say thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Janine.
Yes, thank you.
thank you.
My next question is probably going to stir up as much as the last one did. Please describe to our viewers, I'm going to phrase it this way. Janine, when we talked yesterday, I said, what does Black Lives Matter mean to you? And you actually started to explain to me that it was an evolution for you. I want to know, I'll let you start. What does Black Lives Matter mean to you, and what should people who don't understand start to understand, please?
Okay, so yeah, so I will say, like, as far as Black Lives Matter, I am a convert. When those hashtags first started coming up, I grew up around white people. I have a lot of different.
You have a white godfather.
I have a white godfather. I have a lot of different ethnicities around me, and I really feel like I still somewhat feel this way about it, is that when you focus on one particular issue, people start to lose the big picture. And I didn't like it because I felt like you're focusing on one facet of something that's rooted and deeper than anything that you could even explain. And then people focus on the one person, the one issue, the one thing, and then they have an easier time minimizing it. So I was like, I had a few problems with it, but then as time goes on, I feel like I started to feel like this is the platform, this is the message that you can then explain that it is rooted. Like, you can use this to say it is more than this. And then I felt, and I don't view this as political. I don't think that you should vote on human lives. I don't think that you should be able to vote on how people live their life. And how they're treated. I don't think that that's a voting issue, even though it is, even though you must go out and vote and make your voice heard. But this is something that turned into something for me that I was like, this is an avenue to speak out about the inequality, about the injustices, and I just don't want it to be minimized in, like, because I guarantee you, those men were arrested today. Accountability, thank you. But I don't want people to go yay and then put down their signs.
Right.
Like, because it's like, yay, they were held accountable, it's over. No, it's not over. It's not over.
Right.
This isn't something that we can just drop and continue to let people ignore the discrepancy between how white people are treated in this country and how Black people are treated in this country. And that's just something that.
Right. So the arrest was just one little piece of the puzzle. There's a whole puzzle that we're trying to put together here, and that's just one little piece.
What does Black Lives Matter mean to you, LaShonda?
Well, for one, I think the same thing like Janine said. When they first started with Black Lives Matter, it was geared to one thing that just happened, right? But the picture is much broader and much bigger than that. And maybe it was even on a platform where we didn't always talk about it. So just being able to have now the Black Lives Matter is just helping people maybe speak out a little more, where we felt silence. Okay. Like I said to you, maybe I felt a little silence, not wanting to speak out, afraid of what somebody might think of me, or think about what it is that I'm trying to accomplish or what we're trying to do. So this here puts us on a platform where we can really speak out. Our voices can be heard, because for a long time, our voices just were not heard. We might talk about it, but we would talk about it amongst ourselves. Okay, so that may be why whites didn't understand that they had a privilege, because this is something that we live and we walk every day, right? The same thing like Gregory said, we go into a store, we buy stuff just so that they know that, no, I could come in this store. I've been in stores where they wouldn't even ask me if I needed help, because maybe I look like I can't afford what's in that store.
Sure.
And so you just go and buy it just to say, see, you should have helped me.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, so it's little things that we as Black individuals, we may not talk about and speak about it that much, because it's just like, here we go. We're about to go in the store. Don't touch nothing. Don't touch nothing. Don't say this, because they're watching you. My husband drives to work, and he'll go in a store. He'll stop in the morning to go and get a coffee, and he'll see a officer sitting there, and sure and behold, my husband already prepares himself, like, okay, I know he about to follow me. He see me go in and get my coffee. He'll come out and he'll say, how you doing? He'll get in his car, and the officer may still follow him just to run his plates. Okay, so it's just something that we experience all the time, and white people may not have to worry about that. So yes, I have a son, I have 2 children, I have a son and a daughter, but at a young age, I was telling my son, listen, you can't do, if you're with friends, and you are, like I said, in the area where it's predominantly white, and the school that he goes to is all white kids. So if he's in a car and he have them in a car, I say, listen, you always have to be on point with what you do. If somebody is doing something negative, you cannot be a part of that, because you will be the one that get blamed. All right. And like, I don't know who said it. I don't know if it was you, Greg. This is what the children are learning at home.
Absolutely.
They bring it into the school. Like we were speaking earlier, I said, my daughter was so upset with everything that was going on that she wrote a letter to her headmaster asking him to please, address the school with what's going on. And she says to the headmaster and to the school, you guys pride yourself on diversity, but you use our pictures. You use our pictures on your platforms or your websites to show that, we have Black students. It might only be 5 Black students in the whole school, but you're showing that we have Black students. But it wasn't until my kids reached high school that they really started saying to me, they felt the difference. When my daughter was younger, she did not see color. She didn't see color. She just thought whatever that child had or what they did, we could do the same thing. And, we had to say, well, no, it doesn't work.
You can't, right.
Right. So, and my daughter could not understand that. And I said, no, it's not like that. And my son would always say to her, Mom, she'll learn. Like, she doesn't understand. Like, it's a different, like, we are literally living in 2 different worlds. We are. And for Blacks, it's almost like we're always trying to fit in, and we shouldn't have to try to fit in, because we are here with everybody. We shouldn't have to fit in.
Okay, Erica, Gregory, what would you like to add to what was just said?
For me, it gave like she was saying, it gave a voice to a movement. It kind of opened a conversation. And if I'm bringing it back to dance in my studio, it's so beautifully diverse, which I love. And it's some of the conversations that get sparked in the lobby from the parents are open and honest, like how we are now. And it's not something that should be taken negatively. It's 100% okay to save the rainforest and the sea life. Like saying Black Lives Matter doesn't mean that you don't care about any other cause or that nobody else matters. And I think when it gets taken negatively, that's what the thought process is. It's just saying that this is what we're putting attention to right now. And it's given people that maybe didn't know how to start the conversation, maybe didn't know what to say, maybe didn't know where to go. It's just brought it to life, and it's given a voice to the movement and a centralized area to be. So for me, it's provided a voice, really. And again, I'm gonna say it one more time, just because you say Black Lives Matter doesn't mean you're saying that other lives and other areas don't matter as well.
Right.
Gregory.
Yes to all of that. Yes, and I think for me, understanding that we do exist under the paradigm of oppression, we do as a country, and it's 2020. But if we were supposed to trace this evolution of slavery from slavery to Jim Crow to redlining and the lynching and the segregation and the civil rights movement, mass incarceration, throughout all those times in history, there was a damning of Black lives, right? It was easy to target a Black life. It was easy to kill a Black life. It was easy to laugh at all of those while a Black man was being lynched in public squares. So no, Black lives didn't matter. There was a time when we weren't even deemed human, right? And they made that okay so that they could treat us a certain way, so they could sell us, so they could rape us, so they could steal our children from us. It's 2020, and we're making those chants. We're vocalizing our presence. We are performing our humanity, because for so long we have had to struggle to exist and coexist, I should say, because there are a lot of people who still don't believe that Black Lives Matter, and so that chant is a reminder.
Oh, yeah, and I would say that there's a lot of people that feel like not only they don't feel like Black Lives Matter, but they feel like only white lives matter. There is a small faction of people that want things to be this way, that know that things are this way, and will actively fight to continue to keep it this way.
Yes.
And I'm not that's a small, I will say that group is small, but they infect the people who don't know and who ignore and who I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is what I want to say. I hope that we can continue this conversation. Maybe do this again in some time. But I would like to ask you this. How can people who are watching tonight, white people, people who are not of color, how can we help? How can we, you said in your text to me, you said, Janine, you said something about being an ally, or that we believe we're allies. How do we become real allies?
I would say like, I would jump off of something Gregory said earlier. He said, speak up and shut up. And but the way, and I know that can be confusing for people. So, and I feel like I can try to explain it a little bit better. It's when you see something that you know is wrong, when you see something that you know is just unjust, unfair, and stupid, that is when you speak up. If you see something that makes you a little uncomfortable and you're not sure and you don't know how to respond, then you know what? stay quiet and ask somebody that what they think and what they feel. Like I would just say, if you know, like, and that's how you would be able to kind of navigate. Because if you go and you try to check somebody when you have no knowledge or anything, all it's going to do is make that person's mind up further. So like I would try to just continue to be educated, know more, know who's in your police departments, know who's in your local government, know who is in your, like the upper government, the upper tier, and then know who you're sending to Washington, and know what they stand for, and donate and help with causes, and just be, that's what I mean by being ally. There are a lot of things that you can do, just know and think and be thoughtful and think about what your vote means. Don't just vote because that person is against abortion and that's what you want. Like just think about what that person is about as an all-around politician. What is the chief of police doing in your town, in your county? What are the officers doing in your town and your county? What are their policies? Just be aware, be knowledgeable, and ask the questions. And then when you see something that's unfair, speak.
I want to say, Ree, on the dance platform, because this is for the dance platform. So how do you help on the dance side of it? Include us.
Describe that.
I'm going to say include us. So when there's things going on, I'm just going to share, like even with the different conventions and seminars and trainings that we go to, we don't really have representation of us there. Okay. I've attended many conventions, many competitions. I don't really see Blacks on the judging panel. I don't see Blacks presenting at these seminars. It could be 50 presenters there and no one to represent anybody that looks like me. So which means when I walk in that room, I feel like this little person, okay? Almost like I don't fit in. And there are plenty of Black studio owners, plenty of Black dance studios. And when we go to these conventions and we go to competitions, it's almost like we're looking to see, oh, there's another Black school over there, and we want to quickly run and meet them. We don't even care that it's a competition. We don't. We're trying to say we're not alone. Okay. So we shouldn't feel like that. Okay. Just in this industry alone. And this is just talking about like the dance schools, not, like I'm a small studio here in New Jersey, or, you have your studio in South Carolina, North Carolina. We want to be able to come together and still be included, not look at the panel and say, oh, there's no one here that represents me. And then we might think, well, what they going to teach me? Right?
I get it.
So, people may not want to say it, but I'm going to say it. Why isn't there someone teaching tap? Why isn't there, why aren't we ever the ones teaching the hip hop classes? Okay. But it's okay. It's okay for all the white students to call us to see, or see what we're doing, to come in to teach their students. Right. But so when you're having a big platform, invite some of those teachers that you want to come in. Let people that look like us come in and get the job also. It's almost like we're not included. We're not included. Okay. And I'm going to say this, even when we're going to competitions, we're talking our parents. When we bring our parents to a competition, the parents are in a culture shock because they don't understand why no one looks like them at this competition. And I have to always say, we always are on our best behavior because we don't want to do anything wrong, because the first thing they want to say is, we don't know how to act.
That's a mess.
Exactly. So, you wanted to know how we feel. And
No,
this-
no, listen,
yeah.
I need you to know that I love what
Yeah.
you just said. I am not in any way, I've heard you before. We've had some of these
Right, but-
conversations.
I'm just saying this is how we feel. And if this is a dance platform here and dance teachers from all over the country, all around the world, we are supposed to still be able to work together and talk together, not look at us like we are the underdogs, like we don't belong here, you know.
I
That-
love it. I
that
love
makes
it.
us that does makes us feel some type of way, which makes us want to always work harder at what we do. And I know on some things, you know, I speak to some other white studio owners and they may say, we have the same struggles. You don't understand. No, your struggle is not my struggle. It is not my struggle. No matter how much you look at it, it is not my struggle. Your
I want
struggle
to
is not
say,
my
I want to
struggle.
jump in and just say that for the longest time, I used to, like the first day of my classes, I would always tell my students that I have tone issues. And, you know, I'm 45 and I still sometimes say that. And I had to stop because now I'm in the space where I'm realizing that as a Black person, I don't even have the freedom of tone, right? I'm constantly checking my tone, the way I dress, because I'm measuring my how close I am to white acceptance.
Mhm.
It's not Black versus white.
No,
It should be us against racism,
right.
truth be told. And for me, I do believe that there's certain things that white identified individuals can do. Stop saying you don't see color. That's
Mhm.
one thing, because that erases all my experiences. You can't let guilt or shame prevent you from doing the anti-racist work, right? Because I think sometimes if they're going to do the work, there's a part of them that goes, well, does that mean that I'm racist? It doesn't matter. Do the work. It needs to be done.
Right.
It's important for you to ask how you can support. That's a valid part of it, right? Begin to think about how your privilege can be helpful in situations. Be intentional about how you fight systems of oppression. And by systems of oppression, I'm not just talking about racism. I'm talking about homophobia, heterosexism, misogyny, Islamophobia, xenophobia. Find ways to fight systems of oppression. I think that's really important. You have to condemn racism. Condemn it. Racism doesn't have a two-sided conversation. Yes, but no. It's wrong. So condemn it. I think it's also important for white people to acknowledge the harms of systemic discrimination and violence.
Mhm.
It's harmful. There is such a thing as racial violence. I think it's important to educate yourself, tap into all the resources that are around you. And as an artist, I think it's important for you to dip into the art, poems, dance pieces, that's important, books. That's important for you to open your mind and dive into this reservoir of information because it's out there. Go get it.
Mhm.
I want to 100% everything LaShonda said with the inclusion and bringing us in on the dance platform. And then in the studio life, think about your students. Think about the dance pieces that you're putting them in and how you're portraying them. Everything that we're doing as educators, we're helping to shape our students and how they feel about themselves and moving forward. So think about the stories that we're asking them to tell. Think about our Black dancers. Are we only highlighting them when it's the hip hop piece?
Exactly.
Are they a back row dancer for every other dance until the hip hop piece comes up? Are we doing a tap dance to what's the song, put some perm in your, relax your attitude, and then we're putting everybody in that space, and that's the dance, and that's okay. I've seen that one too many times. Our kids come to us, our young ones come to us pure, and we need to keep them that way. I think for me, they're going to be our ones that we see the biggest change in, and that comes from us, that comes from parents, like Gregory, you were saying, at home, and we've got to really instill in them the changes and the values that we want to see, and we've got to be very mindful of again, how we make them feel about them. Our costuming. Do we put our Black kids in a mesh costume, but the mesh doesn't match their skin? Are they comfortable with that? What are we telling them? Do I brought in a white choreographer, and he was going to choreograph a dance for one of my Black students, and he immediately said, "Erica, I'm going to do a slave piece on him."
Oh no.
And he said, "Miss Erica, I don't want to be a slave." And that why is that your immediate go-to
Right.
for dancers? So just really, we as dance educators in the studio, we need to be mindful. Don't just do a piece for shock value. I saw a piece to Strange Fruit with a noose that flew across the stage, and it's just why on a competition stage. So be mindful. We're shaping the future and of our kids and inclusion, and educate yourself. And that's my piece on what you can really do on the dance side right now.
Because they need to know the story that they're trying to tell in this choreography that they're doing, especially when they're trying to portray Blacks, right? So like you said, even with the choreography down to the costuming that they put on, when our kids are watching this as well, it's everybody, they have young eyes. So, and this is for Blacks and for whites. We have to be careful with what we have our children do, how we dress them in these costumes. We can't support the costume companies that are dressing our children half naked and feel like that's okay. And you know, that's for our white schools and our Black schools. I've seen some of the Black studios put some clothes on the kids, and I'm like, what is the problem?
That's yet another night of
So that is
That's the whole night of
that's another night. So I won't go there.
I will say this.
Anywho,
I will say this, that I am, even, years of my ancestors, and I'm here because of them. I love being Black, right? And I am hopeful. I'm very hopeful. I remember a former student invited me to our house for dinner one night. I don't remember what it was, what holiday it was. And she had an 11-year-old cousin. And he ran up to me and he said, I don't think that we've ever had a Black person in this house. I know, right? But it was so innocent. And I said to him, how does it feel? And he said, this warmed my heart. And this is the hope I'm talking about. He said, I think I need new friends. I thought that was, when we talk about children being the future, that just for me was like, I think you're right.
right.
And so that's the beauty of this kind of integration, the much needed conversation that shouldn't be difficult, right? And for the well-intended white people, if you get uncomfortable, stay in that discomfort, right? And then sit with it. But by no means should it stop you from doing the work, because equity, it's hard work, but let's get muddy with it. Let's get dirty.
Right.
Can I say first, I've been broadcasting now for, I don't know, since COVID-19. This is the longest broadcast I've had. And to me, the most important. And I want you to know how much I appreciate that you've done this, that you trusted me to do this. And I want to say something to you, Erica. I could have kept this closed behind, let's say, idea member walls. I could have kept it closed. People suggested that I did. I want you to know that your parents may be watching from your studio. I know Janine's are, because I'm watching all of these comments. I didn't want to hide it.
No, necessary.
Right. We said we didn't want to be silent.
No.
Right? So,
Yeah.
I don't want to hide it. And if somebody who's watching feels uncomfortable, but maybe after this conversation sits down and goes, because listen, as a white man, having talked to the four of you, I learned so much tonight. There is so much to learn.
Yes.
Yeah,
We didn't even scratch the surface.
we sure.
Listen.
And there's still more to come.
Can we do it again? Are you willing to do this again?
Bet.
Of course.
Would love to.
Of course.
Yes.
This
All
time
right.
I'll have the zipper up.
Ooh,
Yes, because that was inappropriate costume. That-
Touche. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Thank you so much for this platform, Ree,
Yes.
and
Yes, thank you.
my fellow panelists. I think it was a nice introduction to a much needed conversation, and your voices will stay with me. So thank you.
Thank you. And Janine, I feel like as long as I've been your godfather, you giving me the chance to do this for you and for myself is one of the most special things I've got to do in a long time, my friend. Okay?
Oh my goodness. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. It means this saved me from, like I said, it was a dark moment when I sent that text message out and I didn't know how you would react. I don't know. I don't know how people are going to react when you bring this up because people surprise you all the time. And I had an idea of how you would react and I expected you to react the way that you did, but that didn't mean that you would. So it means so much that you did what I expected and that you opened this up and
Yeah.
this is huge. This is huge. And thank you.
And I always say to everybody watching, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
And for
Yes.
listening and
thank you.
commenting
Thank you
and
for
learning.
tuning in and make sure you share.
And just
Yeah.
know that everything.
Yes.
So whoever wasn't here to see this,
And
Everything is said out of love.
Yes.
Everything
And
is said out
I
of love.
also want to say, I don't know, and I'm not a part of studio culture, but for anyone who's watching, who's willing to engage with me, I am open to a conversation via Facebook, via Instagram, my email address, I'm available, because as I grow, I also learn. And what I know today, I didn't know yesterday. So I'm not only being gentle with myself, I'm being gentle with others. So thank you for being patient with me.
Mhm.
Yes.
Wow, we could just keep going, but I am going to end it because
Thank
I
you.
know we're going to do this again. Thank
Yes.
you all for tuning in and stay tuned because we will be dabbling deeper into this topic.
Thank
Have a-
you, guys.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night, everybody.
Everybody
Bye.
walk in love, please. Walk
Absolutely.
in love.
Be
Walk
gentle
in
with
love.
yourselves.
Yes.
Okay. Goodbye.
Bye.